Okay, on to our first read this week. It's going to be He Who Fights with Monsters, a LitRPG adventure written by Shirley. This is 680 pages, $4.99. It's available on Kindle Unlimited. Here's the author's description. Jason wakes up in a mysterious world of magic and monsters. It's not easy making the career jump from office supply store rental manager to a heroic interdimensional adventurer. At least Jason tries to be heroic, but it's hard to be good when all your powers are evil. He'll face off against cannibals, cultists, wizards, monsters, and that's just on his first day. He's going to need courage, he's going to need wit, and he's going to need some magical powers of his own. But first, he's going to need pants. So there we go. That actually is a pretty good description of the story, including the kind of sense of humor there. This is a serial story online. You can actually still find it online. The continuation of this on various websites. It's a serial transported to the RPG world, LitRPG. It's a bit ponderous in the beginning, and it doesn't seem to really have a lot of focus for the first few chapters. But once the main character meets some other people in this world, the pacing and the action really do pick up, and especially once he gets his power set, that's really when it starts to get good, and you start to see how the author's developing this. But before that, it's a little wand wavy. It's a little bit again, I want to say unfocused, because it feels like the beginning of a serial story where the author is not 100% sure what they're going to do with this, and so they're just kind of writing and they're developing things as they go along. And you can see once they get to that first power set, the author's like, okay, this is what this character is going to be, and that really defines the story, like how the main character is going to interact with the world, how he's going to be viewed by the world for a good portion of the story, and that kind of RPG development from that power set, which I'll talk about a little bit, is really kind of the core of like, oh, this is a cool power set, this is unusual, and the main character's role in the world is kind of defined by that same unusualness. One of the big highlights of the story, from my point of view, was definitely the dialogue. There's a really good banter between the main character and his core group, and also as it expands with other characters. Friendly jokes, jabs, a really good break from the slice of life kind of adventuring and fighting that goes on in the story. And I really enjoyed the kind of mid-story logic arguments between essentially the main character, who's an atheist, and the gods and the people who are religious in this world, because in this fantasy RPG world, the gods exist. They appear to him, and he can have conversations with them. And so there's a real interesting logical debate, and it's not anti-religion by any means necessarily, but it is of the mindset of, what do I need gods for? I'm not giving up my responsibility to be a more human being. I don't, for the God's sake. And it's an interesting, interactions between that kind of logic set and his questioning, not just that theological foundation in the society, but also the other structures, whether they be political or monetary based. And it's an interesting kind of way to expand it beyond jokes. And I enjoyed that kind of logical process and thinking and back and forth, and how it becomes kind of a core of the main character's personality and questioning everything. Even if he's wrong, he's more than happy to question it and being argumentative. And it becomes a core personality that I enjoyed, him not just being a goody two shoes or being super evil, but kind of having this weird, I want to say, I guess neutral, not neutral evil, maybe neutral good, I'm not sure, kind of personality. But it's just kind of fun to see him grow in that respect. On the RPG side of things, very nice. This isn't the kind of story where the main character progresses with XP or anything. He's not like absorbing like monster instances to kind of grow on his own internally. Instead, this is very much an external growth situation where he gets certain monster drops to grow his power set, and as he gets those, he can change them up a little bit. And though whatever like these monster instances, or I forget what the exact word in the story was, he gets they kind of define what his power set's going to be, and then he can progress with those. And as he gets different kinds of things, I forget what they're called again, they unlock new powers for each one of those core abilities. So it was interesting to see his core abilities include like stealth and curses and stackable dots. I thought was a very interesting and different way kind of play style than your usual like either paladins or just straight wizards, or like warrior sets that you get in a lot of LitRPG. I'm always a big fan of like stories that try to do something different with different power sets, because it makes you think as a player and as a reader. oh, how would I use those same powers to be more powerful or even as powerful as the main characters is deciding to do. So anytime you can get the reader to do like this internal interaction of what I do, that's always a great sign for me. If the story is engaging with the reader and making them think and pause and like, oh, this is kind of cool to kind of just ponder about. And I really enjoy that aspect of it as well. Especially considering a lot of his powers were kind of gruesome in their nature. And so that kind of sets him aside as not necessarily being on the side of good inherently with his powers, but the things that he does are defining him as a character. So overall, I had a great time with it. And again, the beginning is a little bit slow, and I've read some of the reviews from other authors who were like, I don't really care for the beginning of this, and I kind of stopped reading. And I kind of feel I actually have that feeling, but once the main character does again get to the other people, where he can do that dialogue, or once he gets the power set, that's where the story starts really picking up. And overall, it was a great read for me. And I especially know that because I found myself like staying up way too late to try to finish this like super big novel several times. So for me, it gets a score of 8 out of 10. I don't get a lot of like really great review scores. Mostly they're like just good, and that's, I'm pretty easy to please. But sometimes something special comes along, and this is definitely along the lines of something that's at least a step above. In good world building, good storytelling, good power progression, all that exists here. And especially considering it's a serial, there's going to be a lot of stuff later on. There's not like necessarily a like hardcore plot here, but there are like small arcs in the story. And you can tell it's a serial. So if that's okay with you, I think you'll think it's a great story too. So that's He Who Fights on Monsters, a LitRPG adventure with a score of 8 out of 10, which is great to me.